Pardon, merhaba. Aracınız çok güzelmiş de ne iş yapıyorsunuz acaba?
Imagine a world in which the law is nothing more than a suggestion. A world in which power is not acquired through elections or corporate steps, but through fear, violence, and unshakable influence. Now picture a man who governed this world with an iron fist. A man whose name alone gave shivers to the spines of both criminals and lawmen. He was not a politician. He was not a celebrity. He wasn't exactly a businessman. And yet he held influence over great criminal dynasties that covered countries. He was the brains behind underworld operations running into millions. He had mastery over the unseen world of the underworld mafia, prostitution dens, and drug rings. And regardless of numbers of arrests, jailings, and even deportation, he still remained untouched for years. This is the tale of Necati Arabaci, the man who constructed an empire on fear, money, and violence. The man who was the most feared gangster of the European underworld. But how did a young Turkish immigrant become the leader of one of Europe's most violent criminal organizations? What made him so powerful that even the notorious Hells Angels welcomed him as one of their own? And how did he succeed in dodging the law for decades while operating some of Germany's and the world's most infamous illegal businesses? Stick with us as we shower light on the dark and cold story of Necati Arabaci, the Shadow King of Europe's underworld empire. But first, if you're a fan of thrilling crime tales, do not forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel, and don't miss out on notification so you won't miss an in-depth story into the crime, power, and betrayal universe. Now let's get into it. Entry into the underworld.
Elias Giancarlo, mein Freund, ich drücke die Daumen und wünsche dir viel Erfolg bei deinem Kampf.
Necati Arabaci was born on the 14th of February 1972 in Cologne, West Germany, to Turkish immigrant parents. Arabaci grew up in a working-class district where he was exposed to the challenges faced by immigrant families struggling to build a better future. As a young man, he looked for ways to establish himself and gain respect in a society that at times made him feel like an outsider. His search for acknowledgement took him into the colorful but sometimes dangerous nightlife of Cologne. During the early 1990s, Arabaci worked as a bouncer in various nightclubs across Cologne's entertainment district, the Kölner Ring. His muscular structure and demanding attitude made him known to immediately handle even the toughest of situations. This position not only earned him a guaranteed income, but exposed him to the underworld of Cologne, where he learned and noticed the details of organized crime. Association with the Hells Angels. Arabaci's desire and increasing power in Cologne's nightlife scene did not pass without notice. He became the target of the attention of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, an organization well known for its activities in crime across the globe. Each saw the advantages of such a collaboration, and Arabaci became a part of the club. This partnership gave him greater access through a wider network, as well as the support of an internationally known organization, again strengthening his position in the criminal underworld. In the Hells Angels, Arabaci's rise was rapid. His leadership abilities and strategic thinking earned him the position of president of the Hells Angels MC Nomads Turkey chapter in 2010. This role enabled him to spread his influence outside Germany, building bases in Turkey and other regions of Europe. His skill at working within the complex hierarchy of the Hells Angels and his talent for creating alliances made him a force to be believed within the organization. Criminal enterprises in Germany. Arabaci's involvement with the Hells Angels opened doors to expand his criminal ventures. He got heavily engaged in controlling the bouncer scene within Cologne's Kölner Ring neighborhood. His crew of bouncers allegedly groomed young females to use them as prostitutes, thus controlling much of the city's nightlife and red light districts. Outside Cologne, Arabaci expanded his activities across the Rhine-Ruhr area. He ran a number of brothels, including the infamous Colosseum in Augsburg. Even while he was behind bars, the authorities suspected that he still controlled these operations, showing the far-reaching influence of his criminal organization. His business was marked by brutality and force, making sure that rivals and partners obeyed his orders. Arabaci's criminal interests were not restricted to prostitution and human trafficking. He was also involved in extortion, weapons offenses, and corruption. His capacity to diversify his criminal portfolio earned him a famous target for law enforcement agencies in Europe. Although he was arrested many times and investigated, Arabaci was often able to avoid long-term imprisonment, which added to his villainous reputation. Criminal activities and legal troubles. They say crime always catches up with you. But for Necati Arabaci, it took years of careful investigation and persistent activities by law enforcement before they could finally put him behind bars. By the early 2000s, Arabaci was firmly established as a kingpin of Europe's underworld. But his dominance wasn't founded on business skills or street intelligence. It was forged through violence, intimidation, and an extensive network of criminal activity. In 2002, the Germans finally came for him. Arabaci was arrested on several serious counts, including pimping and human trafficking. He was charged with operating large prostitution rings, forcing women into prostitution through violent and threatening means, assault and extortion. He and his gang used threats and violence on a regular basis to hold brothels, nightclubs, and protection rackets in check, weapons violations and extortion. His operations were armed to the teeth, and he was in the habit of supplying weapons to criminal organizations throughout Europe. At his 2004 trial, the evidence was powerful. Trapped by increasing evidence, Arabaci admitted to his crimes and was sentenced to 9 years in prison. But here's the real question. Was this really the end of his criminal empire? Ongoing influence from prison. For other criminals, a prison sentence is the ultimate demise. But for Necati Arabaci, it was a minor setback. Even though he was behind bars, his network was still in place. News indicates that from within his jail cell, Arabaci still ran his massive empire. He was reportedly operating brothels and nightclubs in Germany and Turkey, making contact with his people using coded messages and loyal middlemen, masterminding criminal activities with the same level of accuracy as if he were still on the outside. How did he achieve this? Through absolute loyalty and fear. His men knew the cost of disobedience, and even law enforcement found it almost impossible to break his network in its entirety. Arabaci had established a criminal empire so well organized that even in prison, he was still controlling the reins. Deportation to Turkey and continuing operations.
Şerefsiz Çocuklar kardeşime selamlar. Yozgat Sarıkaya selamlar, saygılar.
By 2007, Arabaci already served part of his sentence. But rather than be walked out free in Germany, authorities had other plans. They deported him to Turkey, hoping to put an end to his crime spree. Did they succeed? This act further strengthened him. Meanwhile, in Turkey, Arabaci lost no time in regaining his dominance. His relationships within the Hells Angels remained unbroken, and he soon found himself playing an important role in the club's activities in Turkey. He was accused of moving into drug dealing, strengthening international narcotics connections, illegal casino rings, pocketing millions with secret casinos and internet gambling websites, protection rackets, selling protection to firms. For a fee, rather than keeping a low profile, Arabaci flourished in Turkey, working in the shadows and staying away from the blunders that had gotten him arrested in Germany. But the authorities weren't finished with him yet. Recent development. Arabaci had appeared unbeatable for years, but in 2019, his name popped up again in a shocking murder case in Bodrum, Turkey. The facts? Chilling. The consequences? Enormous. Police thought he had a hand in masterminding the crime, showing that even under tight surveillance, his hold in the underworld was not broken. But there's more. His appearance at celebrity events and luxury parties raised eyebrows. How was a convicted criminal still socializing with the rich and famous? How was he getting away with it again? Others think Arabaci had powerful backers in places that most wouldn't even guess. Others believe his empire was too well defended and too deep-rooted in organized crime to be destroyed. One thing was for sure. He was still a force to be figured with. Public perception and media representation. What makes a criminal infamous? Is it the horror of their crimes, their unpredictability, or the myth that grows around them over the years? Necati Arabaci is just a gangster, a legend in the organized crime universe. His name has been the topic of documentaries about the brutal nature of his activities. What news investigations are attempting to determine how he continues to function. Public debates questioning the extent of his political and criminal connections. Some see him as a ruthless mastermind, while others view him as a symbol of the law's failure to contain organized crime. But one thing is undeniable. Necati Arabaci's story isn't just about crime. It's about power, strategy, and the ability to stay one step ahead of the law, no matter the cost. Necati Arabaci's path from a nightclub doorman to an elite member of the Hells Angels and one of Europe's most powerful criminal figures is a testament to his ruthlessness and ambition. His story offers insights into the difficulty of fighting organized crime for law enforcement and the complexities of a world in which legality and illegality intertwined.